Hello and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and we're very glad you're joining us again today. Today we're going to have another very interesting show. We have with us the author of this book, Eyes of Wisdom, Heyoka Merrifield, who is also the author of this book, Sacred Art, Sacred Earth. And Heyoka is actually an artist par excellence, who has done work that is largely based on the archetypes of our world, worked a lot with images from Native American teachings, and he has lived in actually different parts of the world, spent time in different parts of the world, but has spent a lot of time in virtual isolation, in far reaches, actually on reservations, way up in Montana, in Washington State, in very removed places, where he could just think his own thoughts and feel his own feelings and become very united with nature. So one of the things we're going to be speaking about today, and Heyoka is going to talk to us about, is what the experiences are, especially for us city dwellers, what it's like to be in a far removed place, merging with, observing, and being so deeply connected to nature. And it's really out of this space that his work has emerged. His beautiful work, which has been around and shown and bought all over the world. In fact, he's got a whole list of celebrities, as well as others, who have been so interested in his work and have been wearing them around Hollywood and elsewhere for decades, actually. One of whom is George Harrison, who is very fond of Heyoka's work and has been wearing one of his pieces with him actually, well, really until the end. So he'll be speaking with us a little bit about that and just the richness of being close to the land. I feel that's a lesson for all of us to really get into touch with, and Heyoka is here to help us get in touch with that. So,
Oh, Mitchell.
Thanks so much for being here.
All right.
Yeah. It must be difficult for you, Heyoka, to go from the beauty and expanse of Montana, where you live by the mountains and the valley, to New York.
It's quite a challenge, really. Yeah. It's difficult. It's hard to explain what that change is like, but it's almost like visiting another planet.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is so different from the world I live in.
Now, how would you, I mean, of course, the differences are obvious, but in terms of feeling, what is the difference that you could, if you could describe?
Well, I live in a totally natural world. My rhythms are the sunrise, the sunset, the seasons changing, the creatures that I relate to are mostly animals. The eagles land in trees right next to my house. Blue herons will be in my yard some mornings. And all of a sudden, I'm in a town where there's millions of people around me, and it's hard to describe exactly what that feels like. But I imagine if someone from New York, say, is put down in the middle of where I live, and we go for a walk up the canyon, and they see a bear or something, they would feel like it was quite out of their element. For me, it would be a great day, because then I would have that experience, that medicine power would have visited me that day, whether it was an eagle or a bear. It's like, in my world, that's an incredible gift. And it's hard to describe what that world's like to someone who's never experienced it.
Well, I saw your face near to when you first arrived, and the shock of New York City actually was still there. And I just felt so sorry for you. Great as the city is, as a city in so many respects, it's still a city.
Oh, yeah.
And it has all plus the aspects of that. The crowdedness, the noise, the intensity, the electricity, the electromagnetic pollution everywhere, on and on and on and on. And it is very winding, if you will. And for someone who is used to being unwound and just free in nature, well, I just saw what that looked like, you know. And
oh, yeah.
thanks for sticking it out a little bit and coming onto the show. And
oh, no, New York is incredible. I mean, I love being here, and, you know, it's the other part of the world. For me to ignore this part of the world would be, you know, ignoring most of humanity, really. This is wherever you go in the world, this is how people live.
In reality, it has become such, you know, for any number of different reasons. Now, one of the reasons that you have traveled as extensively as you have all over Europe, Asia, elsewhere, is showing your sacred art, which is in the form of jewelry, largely, and now becoming actually your writing. But in the domain of the jewelry, could you speak to us a little bit about what is the spirit behind it, and who is it that has gravitated toward it, who has felt its vibration?
Well, I have an academic training. I went through college. I was an art major, and I was doing contemporary art like my teachers. But what really...
This was in California?
In California, University of California, Santa Barbara, San Diego. What really grabbed me is when I would go into a museum and see the ancient Egyptian jewelry, or the Mayan jewelry, or the beautiful jewelry the Greeks made. And I tried to figure out why that jewelry had such a presence to it compared to what I was making and my other contemporary jewelers in my life. And it led me down a path that has taken me all my life now into another world of exactly how did those people in those times, those great golden cultures, create such incredibly strong and powerful pieces. And what I learned is that they use these archetypal images, these images that are in their stories, their myths, and they also had an honoring of the different animal powers, the different stones, the metals. They all have this. And for us, the jewelry, the purpose of jewelry is commodity. It's how much it's worth, or how it looks with a certain outfit. But you go back in any culture a few hundred years, and it's all function. It's all about wearing jewelry for a purpose, to heal, to protect, and the images are to teach or bring in a certain idea.
It's to evoke or invoke a certain power, a certain spirit, a certain idea, a certain intention, a certain healing medicine. And
the myths, the beautiful images that we have, I mean, they're still in our world, but they're used in advertising. They're used in a profane way, where at one time the stories were so rich, and the tribal peoples, and still, you know, some places where you go in the world, the stories are alive, and the myths, they're what make the society function, and the people go through life passages. And in our mythically deprived culture, they're used to make money at films, or they're used to sell products, and it's like there's a real void in our culture because of that, I believe.
Yes. We're missing the fundamental core of every culture, which is storytelling. And while, yes, we do in American culture have some form of it, indeed. I mean, we do have Mark Twain, we do have a fairly rich poetic culture that goes back some time. There's still some stories at base that sort of connect up with our antiquity, our history, that aren't there. Or they're being plowed down through Madison Avenue. You know, they're just being plowed down and exploited and prostituted and whored, you know, all for sales.
Yeah.
It's very empty, as you basically said before, and we're paying the price for it, I think.
I think so too. I think a lot of the problems we have with our young people, with the culture, all the problems, it's see, the archetypes are not only stories that kind of histories of creation and so on, but they're also they also have a function in our body. Like we have all these energy systems, and each energy system in our body has this incredible power, and that we're supposed to embrace and then develop and expand with. And the culture we were born into, most of our energy gets caught up in our mind, and the other body centers aren't really honored that much or developed that much. And so a lot of those stories where all these conflicts of gods and goddesses at war are all these journeys of the heroes, and a lot of that was talking about the different body energies, mainly aligning with the brain, because that's the one that seems like it wants to be in charge all the time and be sort of a dictator.
Yeah.
And if you go to any of the religious systems and really look deep into them, they'll all address that at one point or another, where there's it's the heart center, it's this center, there's so much more to us than our brain, and our brains are wonderful. I mean, it's wonderful to all the things we've created and all the economic like amazing feats we've done, but
technologies, creative advances.
Oh yeah,
so many domains.
But if you don't honor the natural world, and if you don't have some type of connection to nature, I mean, you're talking about a couple million years of our development as humans, and it's only been a few hundred that we haven't been in touch with that world. Our genetic memory, it has a need for that. And you don't really get it on, watching the Discovery Channel, Nature Channel. It's like you really need to go out and touch it once in a while.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're also perhaps the only culture, or American, European, that thinking is thought to occur in the brain.
Right.
It's just it's a novelty.
Yes.
It was never thought that, funny to use those words, but it was always understood, as you know, Heyoka, thinking occurs in the heart.
Of course,
That's just where it happens.
Yeah.
This is like a wind tunnel. It is reflective. And as you say, it's beautiful and it has a most vital function. But it's confused in our culture with the other centers of our being that are just relegated to as though lower, but just the opposite is
true. Yeah, most people act like this body is just meant to carry the brain around.
There you go.
Exactly. And actually, your mind is your whole body.
Yeah.
And they're even measuring that in science now. They know that the neurons store memory in all parts of your body.
They find neuroreceptor sites in our liver, kidney, and intestines.
Exactly.
So it's there.
It's there. Proven.
Yeah.
But anybody that's done body work, yoga or Tai Chi or anything, they know that. It's just a known. Exactly. It's accepted. And
exactly.
I'm a yoga person myself, and I've done that for 20 years. And it's if I don't do my yoga, then I'm not awake all over. And I don't want to just be in my brain. It's like this body's an incredible vehicle that we have, and
that's right.
I want every bit of it to be awake and operational.
Fact, you're just reminding me of something that I didn't mention at the beginning, is that you lead ceremony in various parts of at least South America, Peru, with Power Place Tours. Is that
correct? That's what I'm on my way to right now. Yeah.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Where are you off to?
Peru. And we'll be doing a ceremony at Machu Picchu during the winter solstice down there, our summer solstice.
Oh,
it's the most sacred day of the world for them down there.
Is it?
And all the temples are aligned in Machu Picchu so that the sun comes through a certain window and illuminates a certain part of the temple. And this will be my 6th year in a row to do a ceremony there.
Oh, fabulous. Oh, God, that would be very powerful. That would be great. Do you feel a real connection with Peru in particular?
In the medicine world, when we have encounters with animals, which we just mentioned, it's very significant.
Yeah.
And I had a very significant encounter with an animal maybe 25 years ago where I was doing some medicine work, and we were out, camping out basically for a couple of weeks, and we just came in to town finally, and we were in a shower. I was taking a shower, opened the window to let the steam out, and there was an eagle flying right at my face. This is in Vancouver, BC, which eagles are common there, but this is in town, and this eagle flies straight at me, and probably with about 10 feet away, turns, and as it turned, it became a condor. And this is like a waking experience. It's not like something I dreamed or kind of imagined. It was right there. It was a 3D one.
Or any kind of shamanically sanctioned plant.
Yeah, exactly. And I wasn't sitting on the mountain trying to get a vision. This was like taking a shower.
Right.
But I mean,
ordinary world.
When that happens in the medicine world, that becomes a significant event. And I had that beaded on my Sundance belt, that event. And I searched out until I had an eagle feather and a condor feather, and they became my medicine to doctor with and to do all kinds of ceremony. I carry those with me everywhere I go in the world for years, ever since that event. And so when I get down to Peru, 6 years ago, and I get together with the medicine people down there and start swapping medicine stories, they have a prophecy about this time. We're leading up to it. It's the Mayans say 2012, and all the different people all over the world are kind of, it's like their 0 point is right around in the same area.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same for the Incas. The Peruvians have that. Also, they're going through their cycle, and we're coming right to the end of it, and then the new beginning. They say at this time, the eagle of the north will come down and join with the condor of the south. The medicine animal that is the primary medicine animal of the Native Americans, the primary medicine animal of the Andean people is the condor. And so all of a sudden I realized that these two feathers I'd been holding in my medicine bundle all this time had a significance way beyond that I knew. And so...
As did that whole vision.
Exactly. And so it was authenticated for me, and I knew there was some reason I carried these feathers. But now I'm a part of something that's way beyond me, and I'm taking the energy of the medicine people from this continent down to that continent. And this will be the 6th time I've done this ceremony. Ceremony is, the beauty of it is, when you do ceremony, we usually use the sacred pipe. We send our prayers with the smoke. You're doing something. You're dancing. You're singing. You're drumming. You're smoking the pipe. It gets you out of your mind. Your body's involved, and all of a sudden, when your body's involved, you're not just thinking about prayers. You're into prayer. Every act is a prayer, and in ceremony, if a bird makes a sound or if an animal comes, it's part of the ceremony. Everything is part of the ceremony. If the wind comes in an auspicious moment. And once you get tuned into the elemental world, the natural world, it will have a relationship with you. And when you're doing ceremonies, synchronicities, magic, whatever you want to call it, whatever you call it, they dance with you, and it's an amazing experience when you say sacred wind or something, and all of a sudden there's a whirlwind, which has happened in the middle of a ceremony. And I don't say, oh, that was a nice occurrence. It's like, thank you, sacred power of the wind, for coming to this ceremony. We really needed that. We acknowledge it instantly because. In our world, the wind is just as significant as another human in front of you. It's like a presence, a power, and it's a relationship. It's a one-on-one relationship.
You are. I actually almost feel like crying because the beauty and truth of what you're saying has come right across to me, because I really get what you're saying. There is a space that you enter when doing ceremony, when even meditating, it can happen, certainly. Or just, I look at the world sometimes, just one's view, how one looks. Like, it looked ordinary that you were in that shower, even to you at that moment. It
Of
looked
course.
ordinary.
Yeah.
But it wasn't long thereafter when you realized there's nothing ordinary at all.
Exactly.
You were slammed at that moment. Sometimes you invite it, but then you were slammed into the sacred world.
And magic is acknowledging and noticing it, because
Yeah.
it's always around us.
It is what is here.
Exactly.
It's our view of this reality that keeps missing the mark.
Right.
And when you are, as you were so beautifully describing, Heyoka, being in ceremony and being in that space, you have left your mind. You are in your body. And that body is nature's wisdom
It is.
in action.
Exactly.
And so you are connected to everything. The idea of there being some kind of isolated synchronicity no longer exists in some kind of sequence of synchronicities. No, everything is synchronous with each other, the true meaning. Same time is what, of course, it means in ancient Greek. Everything is happening at once.
Right.
Even Einstein, you're just reminding me, said that time is nature's way of keeping everything from happening at once. It should be linear time.
That's true.
It's
true.
There
yeah.
you have it.
Yeah.
So
See,
no
he came
wonder
through with time and just blew it away. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
True.
even the science have to accept what he came up with.
Yeah, exactly.
And the mystics have been talking about forever. It's like
exactly.
there is no separation. It's like you just, well, that's a thing to say, but what does that mean? And all of a sudden you get in your brain and it doesn't mean anything because we're so locked into time. But
That's right.
ceremony is out of time and space. You're into another dimension.
Yeah.
And you can get there by meditating. You can get there by prayer. You can get there a lot of ways, in life. Just looking at your newborn baby gets you there.
Yeah.
You know that one. It's like looking at a very significant composed work of art can get you there.
Looking at your art, if I may say.
Well,
You're starting to relate to the archetypal reality.
Right.
Or as you referred, the function outside of the convenient reality. But you get into something underneath, which is living. It's like a living presence, a communication for us all.
You see, I wanted my work to be like Michelangelo. When you walk into that room where David is, no one can walk in there without having at least some kind of experience. It's usually tears for me,
Exactly.
Or it's like, everybody's just like, they can't speak. They finally, they're jabber, and all of a sudden they're, it's a ascetic arrest. They cannot move.
Yes.
Or a sunset can do it. But my art, I really wanted to get there. I wanted to get to that place where that happened, that interchange when it was in someone's environment. And that led me to ceremony. It led me to, I realized that those ancient pieces, they were all very significantly part of the mythology and sacredness of those people's lives. The animal powers that they did, in Egypt, if they did a Ra, they knew Ra. Ra was like the sun, and he was the falcon, and they prayed, they did ceremony, they did offerings. And in doing that, it's opened up a whole world for me, not only for my jewelry making, but for my whole life. It's been my path. Art has been my path. That's my primary way. And it's not only do I experience it and feel it myself, but people, when they see my work, know that something's happening.
Oh yeah. Your presence, a presence, is apparent in it. One of the people of many that are well known to most people that was a great admirer of your work that I had mentioned earlier was George Harrison.
Correct, yeah.
Our time, illusory as it is beginning to dwindle.
Yeah.
Could you share with us just your encounter with him?
Well, it was in the early 70s when we met through a mutual friend. And we were so aligned with our spiritual quest. And so he had me do a little shrine of Ganesha, his deity that he works with a lot, which is a elfin-headed little god. And from that experience, I've done shrines all my life now, but that was the first. And through the years, I've done other pieces for him, that were significant in his spiritual path, which is the Hindu way. And the last thing I did for him, in the last year, I did a little shrine for his son, who had just graduated college, and in that one, it was Babaji, and Babaji's this wonderful Hindu master that taught Yogananda, his kind of primary teacher.
Sure.
And the thing of it is, the beauty of it, as I make Babaji, then I get to know Babaji, because it's not something that I'm doing from a book. This is, if I go to that archetype, I want to be with that archetype. If I be with that archetype, then I have a relationship.
It's the book of your heart, where all is written, and you reach there, Well, George wore your jewelry, your art pieces, for his life, actually.
He did,
He wore it sacredly, and he carried it in the right way.
And a lot of people notice that, that feeling, and it has become a significant part of their ceremony in their life.
Yes,
and
exactly.
it's, when George went into a hotel, the Ganesh went on and he set up a ceremony. There's a little place for incense. And if we all were to just do that, just have a little sacred space, whatever it is, and set it up, your whole life has a different perspective.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming here and helping to create a sacred space here on A Better World.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Deeply appreciate it.
Okay.
This is Mitchell J. Rabin for A Better World. Thanks so much for joining us, and look forward to seeing you all next week.
Stepping in with a little sports now.
Yeah, the Twin Towers came to town. They still have those two big guys from San Antonio, don't they, guys?
They do indeed, Duncan and Robinson. And, it's tough to win a basketball game if you don't play defense. Once again, the Knicks demonstrating that today at the Garden is Mr. Duncan. Lift the Knicks up for 25 and 12 rebounds. Doesn't get much easier over Kurt Thomas than Steve Smith. And Mr. Smith, right this way to the bucket, sir. No D here. Smith had 18. The Spurs win easily, 99-83. The Nets at the Meadowlands breaking their two-game losing streak. Kenyon Martin.